What's up, guys? My name is Casey and this is eBay Miniature Rescues. Today we're going to try and hobby with some children. No, that's not good. I'm going to try and get some hobby done while also not falling asleep at my desk. That makes more sense. So today is the first day of the work week. I did a little bit of work earlier. I've been trying to get some stuff laid out, kind of get a plan going. So, sometimes when I have a hard time coming up with a solid plan, you just write everything down and kind of go from there. So that's what we're going to do this week, because as much as I have a plan and there are things to do, I don't have a plan. And I don't think I could think through something enough to start. So we're going to just list some of the things that need to get done and kind of go from there. So, if you're struggling coming up with a plan, then I suggest doing the same thing. Check this out. Okay, so the idea behind this is it's a little organizing notebook. We can track life's tasks. So I'm gonna open this thing up. So today is date. Now, I need to film a video. Yep, that'll do. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to do. No idea what I want to do, and that can be overwhelming. So we're gonna start with building models. I've got a bunch of Plague Marines to put together and another tank, and that will finish off the Deathguard army as far as building. Obviously, we have painting. I have all of the rest of the models and Morty to work on. That's a good one. Morty's wings. What are we gonna do for Morty's wings? So instead of knocking these large tasks off, I'm gonna go in and kind of decide, well, what are the things that I can do to kind of knock some stuff out right now? Now, building models, I've got Plague Marines. There are, I think, 10 Plague Marines in that box. So if I can put together 10 Plague Marines, then I'd be pretty happy with this one. Painting models, I've got a bunch of models that need paint, but I'm not really feeling in the painting mood today. What else is there? Morty's wings. I like this one because there's research involved. I can go online and I can decide what I want to do. So I'm gonna put this over here. So those are pretty much our choices. We've got painting, building, researching. Now, the biggest thing with researching is that it's a trap. It's a trap! And what I mean by that is that I could go in on my computer, throw on some music, and look through pictures for the next 3 hours. That's not a great use of my time. So I'm gonna have to push that off until later. I can do that on my phone if I'm just sitting, or if I've got a little extra free time doing something else. So I'm not gonna do that right now. Building models, I don't like building models. It is not fun for me. Like cleaning the mold lines, making sure they're pristine, ready for paint. For some reason, that's just not what I like to do. That's usually why I buy on eBay, and they're pre-built and they're ready to go. And sure, there's some mold lines that you generally have to clean off, but it's a lot easier than putting a bunch of models together. That being said, I need to finish putting together these Plague Marines. So that would be probably the best use of my time. So why don't we put together some Plague Marines and go from there. Alright, so I'm pretty much done putting together Plague Marines, but I found something interesting in this Combat Patrol box. Now, I'd heard about this online, but essentially, the Poxwalker sprues have extra Plague Marine bits. These are from the 8th edition starter set, and not all the pieces are there. Now, obviously, you can see I've got a couple of them here, because I actually took the other one. Using extra bits from the box, I made a whole new Plague Marine using this body backpack. super sweet bonus, and I think I can actually make a couple more. So we're gonna try that and see how that goes. So I ended up managing to make 10 fully put together Plague Marines using everything in this box. Those extra pieces from the Poxwalker sprues ended up being super useful, and I was able to take the chest pieces that were left over and just get them in to kind of fit enough to cover that gap. Now you can see on some of these where there's a little bit of a gap left over kind of in the back. I cut a little too far in on this cape. My bad on that. I could probably just fill that in with some green stuff from Milliput. No big deal. The rest of it covers up. So there are definitely ways to do this, and you get some pretty cool and unique Plague Marines out of this. The only kind of bummer is that they use the same cape. So, I kind of covered it up with this sword on the one on the left, but the other two still have the same hole. In a big group of Plague Marines, it's really not going to make a difference, and I think it'll be just fine. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the way that these turned out, and surprised that Games Workshop would leave bits like this just laying around. Alright, hobby friends, it is day 2, and we've got a lot to get to. Now, I kind of rounded out the first day with building a ton of models, which, again, is just something I hate doing. I don't know why. What it is about this hobby, but building models kills me. Probably because I just want to get to painting. But kit bashing, things like that gets me going. I like doing that stuff. So, Nurgle does lend itself to that, and I'm hoping that we can achieve that with some of the other projects that are on the table. That being said, there are still models to be built for this army, including another Plague Burst Crawler, like I mentioned. So, we're going to do that. And, yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's funny, kind of overdubbing yourself, not even matching the voice. Makes for a pretty entertaining watch. Anyways, let's get to building more models. The thing I don't like doing, but, it's a necessary step. Got to try and do the best you can. So, let's get this done. The only thing left is a Plague Burst Crawler. Gotta put this guy together and get him prepped. And I think that's the last thing that I'm actually gonna build for this army. That feels pretty good. One more box and we're done with assembly. Awesome. All right, let's check out the old task book this week and see where we're at. I got to film a bunch of stuff, the intro to this particular day, so that's actually checked off. There we go. So one of the things on the list is chipping the models. I've done that to some of these models already because, I kind of needed to just get them done. So I put in a couple hours last night, real late, to try and get that done. Everybody else was asleep. I thought, I'll just come in here and chip a couple of these models up and kind of, you know, get them ready to go for the next step. Now the nice thing is I actually managed to get pretty much all of the models done. I did, however, save a couple of models just to show you the process on something a little bigger than a Plague Marine. So I saved this tank and I saved Morty. We're going to do those on camera so you can see what those look like with the chipping. To start off with, let's take a look at this tank. Okay, so I sparingly put chipping medium on this tank. You know, I sprayed it kind of in crevices and on top of things, and then laid down my top coat. I'm gonna get a little bit of water on my brush, dab most of it off on a paper towel, so you know it's a little bit wet, not like dripping wet. Gonna get some water applied, and then I'm just gonna gently start to wipe that water up. You can see just starts to come off where that chipping medium landed in globs. So the bigger the globs you have, the bigger the chips will be. In this case, I don't want to overdo the tank. The tank's a big piece, so I just want little chips everywhere. So I'm just trying to take my time, just kind of swirl back and forth, clean out my brush every so often to just unload that paint a little bit, because you know paint starts to get built up in these brushes. Now if you are wondering, this is a dollar makeup brush I got from a dollar store. These are amazing for dry brushing and for this application. Now right in the middle here we have this raised edge. The cool thing about this is we're trying to be a little bit rough. You know, we want to start taking stuff away, so I'm actually going to use the side of the bristles, that part. If I can get in there just right and go right down the middle of this, kind of like edge highlighting, and that's going to take away kind of a line, and we're going to get this nice separation of panels. It looks really cool. It's a really cool way to do, like I said, like edge highlighting, but for damage. It's nice. And then you know you kind of come out a little bit on there, so it's not so uniform. And you can do that however you want. You know, whatever floats your fancy at the time. Come into these other areas and just give a little attention. Like I said, you want to be a little bit aggressive. You know, you want to be able to get in there and start taking this paint off. You don't want to do too much, but you know, you can kind of start to get a feel for how the paint starts to react, especially depending on how much chipping medium you put on there. You know, if you didn't put very much on there and it's kind of a fine mist, that's really going to give you a lot of control, and you can be a little bit more aggressive with the paint. You know, and that's why I opted for chipping medium on the larger vehicles instead of hairspray, because when it comes down to it, even if you decant the hairspray and put it into an airbrush, like, it's not formulated specifically for this, and it does some other things. So using an actual chipping medium is just going to give you a little more consistency, especially on a large tank or object, whatever you're trying to do. That's really what you're after, is a little bit more consistency. You know, I don't want large chunks necessarily to rip up unless I'm meant for those large chunks to rip up. You know, I want this to be a little bit spotty and broken up. You know, like that looks way more realistic, and I barely touched it, rather than, you know, doing the hairspray stuff. And I noticed on some of the Deathguard Marines, it really just goes nuts, and the paint comes off too easily. I'm gonna use that kind of side brush technique to edge unhighlight these. Give it that nice, weirdly edge highlighted look without, you know, obviously edge highlighting. Well, it's looking pretty sweet. I think we're on the right track. This dozer blade. Here's my other tank with the dozer blade. Now, the other option I'm thinking is to tint this, I don't know, maybe a greenish color, like an old school 30K Deathguard vibe. Just do the blades a little bit green. Yeah, we've got some nice contrast paint that would be perfect filter for this. Obviously, we have to mask off the rest of this tank, but that, you know, it's no big deal. So that's an option. I like the way that this looks, the chipping and everything, but I don't know. We'll see once we put some of the metallics in there whether or not we need to continue to differentiate that. But for now, I'm probably just going to leave this dozer blade and finish out the rest of this tank. All right, hobby friends, well, that pretty much wraps up this week's video. A couple things to end. Just want to give a huge shout out. Congratulations to Guy and Penny, Midwinter Minis, having their babies, and Lachlan over at Zorp. I think we got some good work done. We got all the chipping done on the rest of the models that needed chipping, which means that as far as the step-by-step goes to completing this army, that's a big chunk of it. So pretty happy there. Got all the rest of the models put together. We have plenty of options, although I think next week, I'm going to hit up every single comic book shop, hobby shop, whatever, any place in this town that I live in that sells Warhammer products. And I'm going to find some Deathguard models that I don't have. That sounds like a fun thing to do. And we can talk about some hobby shop stuff. So if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. Okay, we gotta do this fast. Thank you for joining me on another miniature rescue. If you enjoyed something about this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, as it really helps out the channel. Once again, I'm Casey, and I will see you in the next video.